All right, let's go ahead and move on. The next game on the docket is the Raiders versus the Eagles. The Raiders are at home and favored by 3. The over-under 49.5. And I'm going to tell you which way I personally am leading before I kick it over because this stat that I have kind of gives it away. So last year, we wound up with 3 different interim head coaches. Every single one of them won their first game, and every single one of them lost the following week. Last week was Rich Bisaccia's first game, and he won as interim head coach. But Tyler, what do you think is going to happen in this second game? Because I'm taking the Eagles +3.
I find myself on the Raiders side of the ball. And here's the interesting thing about that stat, Mike. The interesting thing is most of the time when a coach gets fired, they get fired because they're not doing well. They have a bad team. This John Gruden thing's different. I just don't think that you can put it in that same category of a normal interim head coach. I think obviously, from within the organization, from the players, there was a lot of backlash about the stuff that came out. I think the players had an opinion. I think that fed into it. I think it's the reason that there was ultimately pressure for him to resign. And I think the players are happy to see him go. I mean, I've heard great things about him as a coach. He's an interesting guy to listen to, but I think if the players all still wanted him there, I think he'd probably still be there. So for me, this is a team that, we were talking about Derek Carr really doing some great things this year. We were talking about obviously the Raiders coming out and looking like a real team that's, they've had a couple marquee wins already this season. And the Eagles just, it's tough because if you watch the Eagles play, you're like, this team's not great. If you check your box scores for fantasy, you're like, oh, Jalen Hurts is killing it every week. The Eagles are playing good football. That they're really not. I flash back to, was it 3 weeks ago? I really thought the Eagles were going to be able to cover against the Cowboys, and Dallas just straight rammed them. And then you look at what the Raiders did last week, and I think the Raiders are actually a pretty legit football team. I think that entire division is looking really, really solid this year. And I think the Raiders are going to be able to cover. I think the NFC East, with the exception of Dallas, is once again finding themselves as being a little bit laughable. And I like the under. I think that Jalen Hurts has been running the ball a lot. I think this is going to be one of those games where maybe Miles Sanders gets a little more involved. We remember all of the cheers from last week. Every time Miles Sanders got the ball, the fan base wants him to get the ball. Obviously, you can't run very well against Tampa, but I think that the Eagles are going to be able to run the ball a little bit, keep it going. But I see it being a low scoring game, and I think the Raiders can win this one by a touchdown.
Yeah, to jump in here, I agree with you there, Tyler. I really like the point you just made too about the differences in coaching, because the Raiders did seem to have responded quite well last week. If you're going to have a letdown game, obviously, winning your first after something goes down with the coaching system, I definitely understand that, rally together, go for the win, but you're still doing it against a divisional opponent. So I was pretty impressed with how they responded and showed up last week. And as much as the fan base for the Eagles is cheering for Miles Sanders, and as much as I want to believe in him, because I do believe he's a very talented back, and if you incorporated him as a feature of this offense with the dual run threat of Jalen Hurts, I really believe Sanders should be carrying that offense along with Hurts. Open up deeper play action shots for Hurts. That'll make Devonta Smith's life a lot easier. And now on top of that, depending on if Dallas Goedert comes back this week, now we're able to actually focus in on one player since Zach Ertz got shipped off. So I do actually believe the Eagles are going to get better as the season progresses. But because I haven't quite seen it just yet, I'm going to lean on the side of the Raiders, especially considering that they are home and it's only a 3-point line. Derek Carr is second in the league in passing for reason here. And I believe where this plays into the Raiders' hands is the Eagles secondary has actually been quite solid at limiting opposing wide receivers, especially Darius Slay. He's been lining up on the left side about 80% of the time, and he's been doing a really good job of limiting whichever receivers over on that side. However, the Raiders' passing game really just doesn't rely much on the wide receivers. Yeah, you'll get a deep shot to Ruggs. Had a great game last week, and it does seem like they're starting to find some chemistry there. But typically, he's lining up over on the right side. So Brian Edwards, cool. I mean, we know he doesn't show up until the fourth quarter anyways. So I really believe Darren Waller is due for a massive game. He's actually been a slump in fantasy. If there's any way you could buy low on him, I would highly recommend doing so at this point, because considering that he was on pace for 240 targets, like 1,900 yards and 16 touchdowns after week one, he's been a relative disappointment ever since then. So I think Waller has a very nice bounce back game. I think Josh Jacobs has looked pretty well over the last couple of weeks since he came back. I think the Raiders are just going to control this game, make things difficult. So I'll take the over still. Eagles have been putting up points, even if it's in garbage time. But I'll take the Raiders to cover.
I bet you Sammy Watkins really wishes that game one could create the 16 game pace, but I don't know what's going on with Waller. Jake, that's something I want to make sure I hear from you. What is going on? Because I know you're watching those games closely.
It's very interesting with Waller right now. It's just, I don't know. It seems like all the defenses are just hyper targeting Waller and trying to shut him out and trying to prove like, hey, let's make these wide receivers be us. Let's make sure that they're actual threats. And Renfro and Ruggs have done a pretty decent job, but it's still, everybody knows that it's Waller's passing game. So I think that's what's happening right now. It's just he's getting so focused on, he is the key every week to stopping that defense. Coaches are going to make Ruggs and Renfro beat them over Waller just because of how good and talented he is. But on this game, I don't know why I'm really tempted to take the Eagles on this one. Mike, that stat that you said kind of has me really thinking hard about it. I was already kind of leaning on the Eagles. I just really needed a solid stat to sell me on it. And Jalen Hurts has actually been playing really well. The Eagles have been doing pretty decently. Yeah, they've been up and down a little bit, but I think they come back and have a good game this week. I think they cover. I might even take them on a money line on one of a random parlay that I have just to kind of spice it up. So I kind of like the Eagles. I'm going to take the under on this one. I just don't think that it's going to be a high-flying game. I do like Darren Waller a lot in this game. The Eagles, like you said, Matt, have been really good against the wide receivers. So I think Darren Waller has a great game. Jalen Hurts is going to be a player that you're excited to start. Miles Sanders, fan base, I know, like you guys said, really wants him. I want to see him involved in that offense. I think he's so talented and he should be involved. It's just, you never know with that team. So yeah, I don't know what's pulling me in that direction, but I'm leaning towards the Eagles on this one. And so that's where I'm going to stick. I'll take the Eagles to cover on this one.
Hey, Matt, real quick, did you take the over on or the under on that one?
I took the over.
You took the over? Okay. I was going to say, I thought we had a unanimous under, but we do not. So I also just wanted to mention real quick, one of the things that I find really interesting about Jalen Hurts as the quarterback is most of the time that the Eagles are actually moving downfield, it's because of a pass interference call, because Jalen Hurts underthrows the ball and the wide receiver has to work back to it and the corner doesn't know what's going on. And so he gets called for pass interference. So that's even more of a reason why Miles Sanders is needing to get more work, specifically in the goal line. Like, he should be falling in for a touchdown every week because his wide receivers are getting pass interference right into the red zone, and then it should be Miles Sanders time. So definitely an odd bunch with the Eagles. And yeah, it is kind of an emotional pick with the Eagles +3, but Tyler, I totally see your side and how it's different with the interim head coach situation. Thank you for listening to this little highlight of the 2 Minute Drill podcast. If you want to follow along to other games, here's a playlist for you. If you want to listen to the show in its entirety, show links are in the description. Make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace.